Welcome to the Dumbfounded Dipshits podcast. I am Mike. That is Ryan. We are your dipshits of this evening.
Tooraloo, motherfucker. Happy St. Patty's Day, or early St. Patty's Day.
Happy early scene. Yeah.
Well, the whole month of March is St. Patty's Day for some of us.
I hear something beeping.
That's my whiskey alarm.
Is it really?
Whiskey Wednesday. It's Whiskey Wednesday. Slantia, salute, cheers to all of you out there.
Uh-oh.
May there be green where you are at this
May
moment.
there be green where you are at this moment. At this very, very moment. Wow.
Did you find your beep?
No, I think it's you. But I'm being called out because I wore this shirt last week as well.
You like White Castle hamburgers, bro. I mean, you do a lot of dabs, so you're gonna want the White Castle immediately after you do the dabs.
The best and worst thing about White Castle is it smells the same coming out as it did going in.
Yeah, that's the crazy part. And the thing is, that's what I'm saying. The shit don't smell that bad. It does wreck your digestive tract going out, but I don't think it's that bad smelling on the way out. But it makes its way out quick, though. That's the thing.
Wow, quick.
I don't think you can really get fat. Listen, I have a hypothesis that you cannot get fat from just only eating White Castle, because it eventually acts as a diuretic, and you end up becoming from what I hear is that there's going to be people going to be cutting weight with White Castle when they find out about this. Instead of taking chocolate laxatives and saunas and shit.
Oh wait, speaking of chocolate laxatives, I have some somewhere. Not for me. They're for my lovely daughter.
Yeah, it's the only way you can get kids to eat them when they. Yeah, that was how I remember. I had a couple of incidences as a kid, and my mom had to trick me with chocolate laxative.
Wow.
I once. Oh, you want to hear a story? I once ate a whole jar of Flintstone vitamins at my peak of childhood fat when I was like 7 or 8 years old, and I was insatiable. Like I just couldn't.
Let's just say for the rest of that month, you were not low on vitamin D.
Or vitamin everything. Iron, especially, because what it does is iron, when you overdose on iron, it turns your shit into fucking like rusted bricks.
Wait, what? You were shitting rusted bricks? You were literally shitting bricks? Rusted bricks?
Or lack thereof. I could not shit at all.
Weird.
So my mom had to give me an enema and chocolate laxatives because I wouldn't take. There was something she tried to give me that tasted like fucking chalk, and I was like, no, I'm not. I don't know if it was like not milk and magnesia, like it was like something.
It was probably chalk. No, I'm kidding.
Whatever the fuck it was, and I kept spitting it out. And my mom, she was like, "Here, eat this chocolate," and I fucking shat my brains out.
Ooh, chocolate. Can I have another? Can I have another? Can I have another?
I shat my brains out, and I was all better. But I was miserable. I was on the toilet for 2 hours. I couldn't shit. I was crying for my mom. I was 7 years old. Couldn't shit.
Wow.
Anyway, so what do we know about St. Patrick's Day? What do you know about St. Patrick's Day, other than it's an Irish pride holiday?
I don't know anything. I not a damn thing. Nothing.
What do you most commonly associate with St. Patrick's Day?
Drunk Irish people.
So those are two. What about like St. Patrick himself, right?
I don't know who that is. Who is St. Patrick?
Okay, so what most people know about this is what you just said. A whole bunch of drunken Irish people. Why? Because they celebrate their pride, right? So the Irish are infamous.
Gay pride?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot. There was. All right. Let's. I could go back to that as to where that was like a thing with the Irish parade. You remember in the 90s?
What? There was gay pride at the Irish parade.
The gays wanted to march in the parade in the 90s, and they protested, and they they were not like very welcome at the time, and they were like allowed to march after I think like maybe Giuliani passed something. because I think Dinkins may have slept on something, and then Giuliani became mayor, and then they let the gays march in the St. Patrick's Day parade. Anyway, that's more modern history of St. Patrick's Day parade. But usually, like you would say it's Irish pride, that people just or pretending to be Irish for the day. Like a lot of people would be like, everybody's
for the day.
Yeah, a lot of drinking because it's a lot of partying because it's like it's an Irish pride sort of associated holiday. But where it comes from is they were celebrating the patron saint of Ireland, who supposedly rid the island of snakes, and that was his miracle. But long story short, right? Britannia and parts of Ireland were under Roman control, and this is about I want to say 1,000 years ago, maybe a little bit longer than that, right? So there were like Romans who were stationed there, or maybe even 2,000 years during the time of Caesar. I think Caesar was in that part of the world, and either way, St. Patrick was the son of a Roman governor or some sort of like a nobleman who was dispatched to Britain. And there was a story that he was taken into slavery and then brought to Ireland and then escaped and made his way back. And the people who freed him, he wanted to save because the island of Ireland was plagued with snakes, which wasn't true. There's no archaeological evidence and or paleontological evidence saying that there were ever snakes on Ireland ever.
It was figurative. If it was
so you do know
he was talking about the Irish people themselves.
Yes, it was
snakes. You know,
they worship. No, that was they were represented as snakes. So the people who were the Druids and the ancient Celts. Their religion and the religion that was like sort of practiced, I guess, in Gaul and parts of like northern France was, I guess, the Romans represented it with serpents and snakes, and you know, snakes have been worshipped in the past by pagan religions, but really in the modern times have not really been revered and been more feared. So they've been taking over our negative connotations, sort of like how Satan has horns. You know, when Lucifer was cast down from heaven, he was a beautiful angel. How did he get that negative depiction? So the snake was a negative depiction of the pagans that the Romans eradicated and enslaved. So that's pretty much, in a nutshell, who St. Patrick was and where he came. And I think he led like this, religious cleansing of Ireland, and that's sort of sort of how Christianity came to Ireland. And I think the cross, like this style cross, was a mold of the sun image of what the Celts and the Druids were worshiping, and the cross that Jesus was, and that's how they got the Celtic cross.
What was the movie Braveheart about?
That's something that has nothing to do with St. Patrick's Day whatsoever, except for one Irish guy who's represented in the movie.
One Irish guy.
That's just about William Wallace fighting the English. So it was, you know, and I think like what it is this is how I feel.
Cheers,
about
everybody.
It. Cheers. As I don't know, second or third generation Irish American. I don't know. Like my grandparents, I have Irish grandparents. So what does that make me? Second generation born here, right?
Aren't you Irish? Are you full-blooded Irish?
Yeah, like both sides of my family, both my mom and my.
Yeah, so you're Irish.
Like if I did a DNA test, I'm definitely like in the high 80s, because I know I have on my grandmother's side, on my father's side. She has Scotch relatives. You know what I mean? And I know I have like some sort of like American German mutt on my mother's side,
German mutt.
But I mean, going back over 100 years ago, like to, you know, like around the time of the Irish mass immigration to the United States, like at the turn of the century. So, but yes, I have a lot of Irish heritage. But what I'm saying is, like, I loved it. Like in high school, it was like a reason to fucking party and hang out with your Irish friends and all your friends. Nobody wanted to be fucking Irish until it was St. Patrick's Day. So for me, it was a little cool because I used to get dissed for being a ginger, fair-skinned, redheaded Irish.
Yeah, but
I
you're a
said ginger.
daywalker, aren't you?
I have darker hair up top, yes, but
But you don't
but
have
my,
hair.
but the carpet matches. Yeah, but I mean, a day
I
walker.
know what you mean.
I could maintain a tan. I could do that. And living in Florida, I've gained the ability to maintain a tan for over a week. That is not a sunburn.
Just a week.
Yeah, that is not a sunburn. I have to go in the sun once a week in order to maintain a tan, is what I'm saying. And I haven't gotten a sunburn, knock on wood. This is particle board. I haven't gotten a sunburn since literally before I moved down here. When I went to the Mermaid Parade, I burned the back of my calves. And because that was the only place I didn't put sunblock.
St. Patrick has long been recognised as the patron saint of Ireland, a man of great piety who eradicated snakes from the island and had a fondness for shamrocks. But have you ever wondered how many of the stories...
So he eradicated the snakes on the island and had a fondness of clovers.
Shamrocks, yeah, but that's hearsay. That's bullshit. That's third party. That's third party fucking... You can't do that.
How do they know that? How do they know he didn't,
Yeah, that's... You don't know. This is the thing, right? What we do know, as far as, like, they found, like, actual, like, digging, dude. This is, like... The St. Patrick's Day that we celebrate now is the St. Patrick's Day that was celebrated by the Irish immigrants in the mid-1800s, right? But they didn't know what the fuck was going on. Half those people were illiterate and didn't read. They were off the boat from fucking Ireland to come here to fucking build buildings.
Yeah,
and
they wanted somewhere to grow their potatoes because the potatoes weren't growing in Ireland.
Weren't growing there, or they were leaving because there was nothing to eat. So, and these are very poor fucking people. So they didn't know. They didn't know.
Corned beef, the meat that you use to make corned beef is the scraps. It's not like the high-end meat. Although it's fucking delicious.
What they would use to make shepherd's pie and stuff like that, and the stewed with the like stewed meat and cabbage or beef and cabbage would be yes. It would, and when they came to the United States, a lot of the Irish immigrants would like their option to go to a meat market would be a Jewish delicatessen. So they would buy brisket and cured brisket from the Jewish delicatessen, and instead of using the pork belly or whatever they would typically use, or the like whatever minced meat that they would use for these stews, they used this corned beef brisket that ended up becoming the corned beef and cabbage that Irish Americans eat today. But, like, it's great food to fucking keep you drinking. Like, if you know what I mean? Like,
great food to keep you
drinking. Cabbage isn't all that starchy, so it doesn't fill you up. But the thing is, like, it holds up enough water to keep you hydrated. And the protein and the fucking and the corned beef and the potatoes to soak up all that alcohol. It's like marathon food for drinking. Like if you could tolerate that much beef and fat, beef fat rather. Yeah. So, but the fucking speaking about shits, like we talk about shit a lot, Mike. I think I noticed this. So just speaking about shit, the shits you take the next day.
Dumbfounded dipshits.
Shits. It's in the name, Mike. It's in the name. So we must talk about it. The day after, okay, after eating all that cabbage, all those fucking potatoes, all that fucking corned beef, beef fat.
It's not even the day after. It's not even the day after. If you stay up late enough drinking, it's going to happen at night.
Yes, in the middle of the night while you're sleeping, passed out. All that Guinness, all that whiskey. Number one, whiskey alone has whiskey shits. It has its own thing. Cabbage shits has its own thing, right? The meat shits is its own thing, right? Now combine all these things together with the volume of Guinness and just how black those fucking explosive shits are because the Guinness stains your shit so much. Jesus. It's dude, I know I explained that pretty well.
We should have had some kind of warning for the people watching to be like, just a heads up, the next portion of this show will be very shitty. You're entering a very shitty portion of the show.
What I'm saying is that you don't really have to worry about getting too fat because you're gonna crap all that shit. You're not really.
That's where you were going with that one. That's where you were going.
Yeah.
Moral of the story is you're gonna shit your brains out so you won't get fat from all that drinking and eating.
And when you're of a certain age, you gotta be like, I can't drink all that fucking beer. I'm gonna get fat. I can't drink all that beer and eat all those fucking potatoes. I'm gonna, you know what, like. But you can on St. Patrick's Day because, listen, you got to give yourself one day. That's number one. And number two, whatever you're not going to retain any of the stuff that you're eating, especially with all that fucking walking around. Pub crawls are a big thing. You go from one place to the next. Don't drive if you live in a place that you cannot access. Or just give Uber your money. It's way cheaper to just public service announcement, by the way. It's way cheaper to pay for an Uber to and from than getting caught fucking drunk driving. It's way cheaper. So you get to keep your car. Anyway, Mike.
Real and how many are myths?
Are we gonna watch this whole video?
Yes, all 12 minutes.
From History Calling, we're going to put the sources to the test and ask just what
Her voice is fucking annoying me.
do we know about St. Patrick? Stick around until the end and
I don't think we're going to stick around until the end, I'm sorry.
also explain why St. Patrick's Day is celebrated on the 17th of March and where those snake and shamrock stories come from.
I'll tell you what, her voice is sort of... The shamrock is a clover. It's a clover. It grows like grass. You know, I don't know if it's related to grass, but I know clovers grow with grass and grow like grass. Like they could just encompass an area of terrain.
Well, they are both symbols of good luck. However, there are a few differences between the two. For starters, shamrocks always have 3 leaves, while clovers can have a 4th leaf. Shamrocks are usually green, but you can find purple, green, and white clovers.
I think they're all different breeds too. Like I think, like they are definitely, their taxonomy is like fucking spread out. So it's not one plant. There are several plants that have these characteristics, and some of them may not even be that closely related, but resemble each other, I think.
Interesting. So because the shamrock had typically 3 leaves, it was used to represent the Holy Trinity.
Yeah.
Interesting. Did not know that.
This fucking shit. And the Trinity knot was like used because they would draw a clover and they would do like you see the knot work, you know, like you would typically see. And you know, like the way it would crisscross, and that's you know, like I feel like there was, and I could be wrong about this. There was a melding of cultures in that part of the world, and you had Viking culture, Anglo culture, Celtic culture, Saxon culture that sort of meshed in, and they used a lot of knotwork. And I think that was something. When the Romans were there, there was no they didn't themselves. The Romans used knotwork because that their culture and their art was way different than what was going on or had been going on in Northern Europe before they conquered. And you know. And I don't know if you know this, but the Irish people, just historically, even going back thousands of years ago, you know, don't take well to occupation for too long and eventually will rebel. They are very rebellious people. Well, that's the Scotch. They're very similar.
Oh, wait, yeah, no, they're Scottish. They weren't English.
Yeah, but they share a similar culture. There's people who speak Gaelic in Scotland. Gaelic is the second. It's the language of Ireland, but it's the second most commonly used language in Ireland.
I always forget that both Scotland and Ireland are technically connected to the United Kingdom.
Yes, only because Ireland has Northern Ireland, which is British territory.
Yeah. And
Scotland is part of that island of Great Britain. It is. Yeah. Edinburgh is the capital, but it's not separated by water or a hard border, or it is attached. And Ireland is separate all in itself, the island of Ireland. But the thing is, the people of Ireland see the island as a whole. So if you see any depictions, you don't see Northern Ireland taken out of the map of Ireland if it's put as a silhouette on something. You know what I mean? The people of Northern Ireland and Ulster, they see themselves as being Irish, and they identify as being Irish. It's just the whole Protestant and Catholic thing that really fucked shit up because it pretty much pit brothers and sisters and cousins against each other. And that is still, from what I understand, I thought that was dead, like back in like the 90s, because they're, you know, like before Al Qaeda and all that shit, the motherfuckers who were doing car bombs and who were fucking like doing weapons trafficking before the fucking cartels and before the mafia was like the IRA. The IRA was buying fucking guns illegally from like everybody in the world to fight the English, and the English weren't too. But this is getting off the topic of of St. Patrick's Day. But I believe that St. Patrick's Day, in relation to that, it's sort of like a self-identification holiday that is sort of rebellious to the English occupation, and that's when it started being celebrated, because it was the only thing that they had to grasp onto that was like a country's identity, like a culture's identity, to separate itself from Britain, even though they spoke the language, because English is still spoken there. Banshees, I feel, honeybee. Banshees, I have a banshee actually tattooed to my arm. It's playing the bagpipes, though. Banshees, I feel, right, is a common sort of like spirit manifestation that people have, like you have, even in Greek culture, you have the sirens, right? And you have like these things so it was like primitive people had to have a reason for why the wind whistled. And
why anything happened.
Yes. So that's what would happen. The wind would whistle, and this is something you would tell the children at night to go to bed because the banshees are out.
Yes.
And
I
it's
have a funny story about that.
And it's superstitious. The Irish are superstitious. So when you add that culture, like campfire story thing, to the superstitious stuff, banshees come about. I think they're sort of awesome because it's not that like the happy-go-lucky leprechaun. It is like the scary ghost story.
Yeah, it's a female
version.
ghost that screams.
Speaking about the Irish culture, jack-o'-lanterns are Irish. So happy Halloween.
I know that.
Yeah, jack-o'-lanterns are Irish, but they were never in pumpkins. They were in turnips.
Banshees.
Yeah.
So I have property in upstate New York that's in like a haunted state forest. It's only haunted because there's like random cemeteries throughout, like old school not old school cemeteries,
haunted,
but like cemeteries that are from like the early 1700s, and they're really not marked.
Like some Sleepy Hollow shit, right? Like
Yes. So I'm driving up there with our mutual friend John, and it's pouring rain, and it's later in the day. And John has his window down, and he's like, "Yo, you hear that?" I'm like, "Hear what?" And it's just this subtle like whistle scream that the woods is making just from the rain and the wind. And he's like, "Yo, it's a banshee." And then I just got like, "No way, bro." I was like, got nervous. I'm like, just stop talking, man. Then he starts talking about old folklore, and what was the name of the god? It was like they used to believe in this antlered deer type god that lived in the woods, and he starts talking about that, and then we start hearing things crackling in the woods and all these crazy things in the woods, and I'm like
snapping branches and shit like that.
It's pouring rain and it's shitty weather, so it could be
could have
been anything. But
the wet wood is just like falling off, like branches collapse.
Yeah, but I'm like, just stop talking about banshees.
Wet trees are louder too when that wind goes whistling through them. Yeah. Yeah, creepy as fuck, dude. And the thing is, like, I think like the Irish used to like to latch onto. So this is what I think happened with St. Patrick. St. Patrick's story started out real grim and like morbid and fucked up, like, and the people of Ireland in their culture and the way they are storytellers, because the Irish are infamous for being poets and storytellers and song
and alcoholics.
Listen, you don't get art without a little bit of alcoholism. We could do that bit where it's like, get all your albums on and burn them, because everybody who made those were real fucked up. Like, so it was like all this great culture. Rock and roll is sort of semi like spurned from Irish folk music, because you don't get rock and roll without like blues, jazz, and bluegrass. And country music is derived from Irish folk music, from the immigrants who came here in the late 1800s and early 1800s, mid 1800s. So even still, they take these grim stories and make them and polish them. And St. Patrick's story went from that to him ridding the island of serpents, because serpents are bad, right? Because at this time, the way you could tell the story is that nobody likes a snake, because snakes are shisty, they hide, they're cold-blooded, they kill, you know what I mean? And so snakes aren't good in that modern eye, and it's easy to tell a story to glorify somebody when everybody on the island at this point is Christian Catholic. Like, they are devout Catholic at this point. And just like that sort of Irish personality trait thing, but being superstitious, because a lot of Irish are superstitious, that adds to the religious fanaticism, which boosted St. Patrick up to this huge pedestal level to where he gets a holiday every year. That there's saint days every day. The Italians, everybody in Italy, if you have your I think it's your middle name or your first name. Like if your name is Anthony, you celebrate like a second birthday on St. Anthony's Day, right? Right, or something like that. Like it's something like that with the Italians.
I never heard that before. I'm not really religious. So.
Growing up in Bensonhurst, and I knew quite a few Sicilians and Napolitan and like people from Italy. And I think the Sicilians used to do this, but they would, or the really religious Catholic Italians would celebrate your saint day, like whatever your birthday, like or your name day. It's called like a name day, but it's a saint, like it's Saint Dominic. If it's Saint Dominic's day and your name's Dominic, then you could celebrate you know what I mean? Because a lot of people were named after saints. A lot of people were named after saints. But my point is it boosted this St. Patrick's Day holiday, and it ended up becoming a shit show in some places. In college towns, it's a fucking mess, dude. St. Patrick's Day is amateur hour in college towns. Depending on where you are, a lot of people are not Irish and want to be Irish for the day, and a lot of people are not Irish and could live without it because of how crazy it gets. Now, the Irish, we like to party. This is how it is with the Irish. The Irish, in Ireland, it rains a lot, right? So the weather isn't great all the time, so they love rainbows. That's why rainbows, like it's a miracle that there's a fucking rainbow, because it's clouds.
Pot of gold.
So just imagine the misery of Seattle, and like being poor and fucking, and you know what I mean. And so like you use this day to sort of balance, like, oh, we're miserable most of the time, but this one time we're gonna go all out, in which they do on like most of the super big holidays like Christmas and Easter and shit like that. But St. Patrick's Day is special because it's like national pride, but like sort of not national pride like Nazi shit, but national pride like they're like proud of their like culture and their independence. And they brought that here, and everybody likes, so you know what I mean? Like it's a balance with them. So it could be, miserable for some people, but because you get a lot of Irish who don't even like the holiday too. And I feel, in my opinion, I was thinking about this earlier, that it's probably a bigger deal here in the States, just a little bit bigger of a deal here in the States than it is, let's just say, in Ireland or other countries that Irish immigrants went to, like Australia or New Zealand. But I feel like I could go to Ireland and not be in Dublin, like not like sans Dublin, like forget about Dublin, go somewhere else, right? Like if I go out west to like Killarney or like or go south to Cork or something like that, it's probably not as big of a deal as it is in Midtown Manhattan on St. Patrick's Day, because you've been to Midtown Manhattan on St. Patty's Day at least once. At least once. A fucking shit show. There's some things you don't do in New York that a lot of people don't do in New York, and everybody when they hear you're from New York, they're like, "What, really?" I never once went to New Year's Eve in Times Square. Not once. I've celebrated in my 41 years, going on 42, I've celebrated about 34 of my New Year's is in New York City. Not once did I go to Times Square. Yeah. But the thing is, a lot of people say that about the St. Patrick's Day Parade because it's the biggest St. Patrick's Day Parade in the world, I believe, going up Fifth Avenue.
I think it is in the world, yes.
Yeah. And for people, like the amount of people, because the thing is, like, there's a lot of Irish Americans, but the Irish have been immigrated into and integrated into the United States so much so that, like, there's like a quarter or a third of the people in the United States who are second generation anything, like, have Irish in them. Like you do, right? Aren't you like 1/8 or some shit? Or your dad's half or something, right?
It's debatable. So my father has an Irish last name, but his father, who he got the last name from, was adopted.
Okay, but
so
he could have been. He could
most likely Italian, according to my DNA test on Ancestry. Hold on, I'll tell you right now. Let's see if I can find it. I believe I'm only like 5%. Like I'm like 90% Italian, basically. Not 90%, but
Yeah, mostly Italian.
there's
Wait,
like
aren't you Puerto Rican too? Don't you got a little
yes,
Puerto
well
Rican? In
that's the other percentage. It's not 90%
on the
Italian. I'm
other
just saying.
half.
Hold on, DNA story. I guess that's where I click, right? Let's see what I am. Oh, we've updated
You
your
trust this too,
ethnicity.
right? You trust
I
this too?
mean, it sounds right when you read it though. So like 41% Italian, 15% Portuguese. Actually, it's more than 41% Italian because that's southern Italy, and then it's another 13% in northern Italy. Okay, 6% Irish. That's it.
6% means you have a great grandparent. I think 8% is a great grandparent.
Yeah, so I have then there's Puerto Rico, then there's Senegal, which is Africa, then there's
So you're like part
another
black. How
African
much?
company, then in total like 7 to 8%,
8%. So you're more black than you are Irish.
and then 1% Jewish, which is random.
I think everybody's 1% Jewish. I think every. I think
Probably
I've okay. I think if I take a 23andMe, right? Is that what you did, or what did you do? You did Ancestry.
ancestry.
Okay. I think if I did either one of them, right, I would probably come up the same, like 1 or 2% Jewish. Like I don't know. I just feel like it would just be there, and I feel like I probably have like some Dutch, German, blah blah, like
Blah blah.
yeah, like 6% or 5%,
Dutch German.
and
Blah
then
blah.
yeah, and then I think I have like 70% Irish, and that schmick wet like whatever 15%, 20% like Scotch or some shit like that. Because I may have like Scotch,
Shite.
I may have Scotch relatives who moved to Ireland for work because there was a lot of people back and forth. I think may have relatives who moved to um, uh, where are the Beatles from? Liverpool. But that moved around the time that my grandparents moved, or that moved around the time my great grandparents moved because I have great
So
grandparents who are from Ireland too,
what was the other thing
like
you
off
wanted?
the boat.
What is this? I didn't never even heard of this, by the way. What you brought up the Ides of March.
Yeah. So the Ides of March, right? Okay. Now what I know
Apparently, it
about the
has
Ides of March.
something to do with Julius Caesar being stabbed
Yes,
to death
that was the
by.
day. That was the day that they murdered Julius Caesar. You know, Et tu, Brute, when Brutus, his best friend or his most trusted confidant, also stabs him too. And it was so that nobody could be guilty. It was like if we all kill him,
Uh huh.
not one of us could be found guilty, which is like a loophole in the law that they had back then. If you're killed by a mob of people, like no one person could be found guilty of the murder. So yeah, so that's when Julius Caesar was killed. But what I'm saying was Saint Patrick was a Roman. You know what I mean? And I feel like his saint's day was
Well, what was Julius Caesar?
Julius Caesar was a Roman emperor.
Yeah. So what was you just said? Saint Patrick was a Roman. So you're saying
Was a
that
Roman, and his father was dispatched by maybe not too many Caesars removed from Julius. When was Saint Patrick in? Let's see. When Julius Caesar obviously was like 30 A.D. He was killed. He was like, wasn't he around the time of Jesus?
yes, 30 A.D. You're right.
Yeah, he was killed in 30 A.D. And I think Saint Patrick, it's got to be like maybe two Caesars removed, maybe more than that.
Saint Patrick was born
386.
around 386 A.D.
So 386 puts him probably 5 emperors later.
44 B.C.
44 BC on the 15th of March. That's today. This is the day. Today is the day Julius Caesar was assassinated.
Rest in peace. I
Some say the best some say the best emperor ever. That's what some say. Some people put him over Alexander the Great, even though
Whoa. Alexander the Great killed a lot of people.
But Genghis Khan killed more and had more landmass.
Well, Genghis Khan, they killed how many people? Wasn't it like 1 billion people? Not 1 billion, but
This is a fact, I think. Speaking about 23andMe, what were we talking about? How black are you? You're 8% black?
yeah.
Okay. Look at this number. Now think about that, right? In Central Asia, in the steppes of Central Asia and going across China into, and when I mean the steppes of Asia, I mean Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan,
The stands.
Afghanistan, right? Going into Iran, right? And in some parts of Eastern Ukraine and China and Mongolia, 10% of the population share DNA direct lineage to Genghis Khan himself.
And he also killed
What?
about 11% of the population of the planet.
Yes, it changed the carbon footprint of the fucking of the world.
So crazy.
In that period of time that he was running horseback across fucking Central Asia. Now, that's more. So some dude in Uzbekistan or Mongolia could tell you, I'm more Genghis Khan than you are black. Or more Genghis Khan than you are Irish.
I mean, it's not that hard. I'm not that Irish or black. So,
I could see you got a little bit of both in you. You got a touch of both. I could see it.
Are you saying something racist right now?
No.
Are you?
I'm just saying you act black sometimes.
What? Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. Jesus.
If I were you, I wouldn't have any problems with myself acting black. Like, what the fuck?
Are you saying I have street credit?
You do got some street credit. You got some. Not a whole
not a whole lot.
Not a whole lot, but you got some street. You got some street credit, and it shines a little bit. You know what I mean? It does. And I'm not talking about your complexion. I'm just saying, you got good skin. And you black don't crack, and you've been aging, a little slower than some of your people in your median age group.
Crack. Wow.
You're aging better than you should.
Hold on, I thought black does crack.
No.
Crack cocaine.
No, that was in the 80s.
Yeah. No, but
they smuggled in the cocaine so black would smoke crack.
No,
that's what that was.
I grew up. I never.
CIA.
Well, that's not true. See, ironically enough, growing up in New York, I've seen two different types of crackheads. It was the generic skinny black guy, and then there's the generic super skinny white lady. And when I say crack ladies, or crack heads, they're always dirty, and you could tell they're dirty, or ashy, very ashy, and very skinny, and always had bending their arms in weird ways. It's whoa.
I tell you what, this is because it was before the meth head. You had people who did speed back then, but I remember growing up. I remember there were the crazy people in the neighborhood, and I grew up in a neighborhood that was a little mixed. It was mostly Italian, but it was a little mixed. I've seen crackheads of all ethnicities, all of them. I've been to Coney Island. I've been to Coney Island.
Spanish crackhead.
I have. I've seen mad Puerto Rican crackheads. I've seen Dominican crackheads. In Coney Island in one day, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I in one day have definitely seen a white crackhead, both male and female, a black crackhead of both male, female, and question mark, them maybe. And I've seen crackheads they were Asian looking Russian.
That's why
crackheads.
I love this show. We can go from talking about saints to
crackheads,
to Julius Caesar
to crackheads.
Yeah, the transition.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the thing is, it's you just gotta go with the flow. And if the flow is bringing you to crack and the crack epidemic in the 1980s,
then you dive right in. Also, I want to point out when I was younger, in the late 90s, it wasn't called methamphetamine or meth head. It was called speed.
Speed.
And I never realized there was
crack and speed were what I thought it was called.
It was meth.
Yeah.
I
didn't know what it was. I knew that that it was an amphetamine.
Yeah, no, I
You know
didn't
what
know
I
it was
mean?
meth though. I didn't know it was the
I didn't
same
know.
drug. We knew
I
what
didn't
it
hear.
was, but
Yes, I don't think meth, the term, became popular until the 2000s. Right?
yeah,
That's when you probably heard or repeated the word for
Breaking
the first time.
Bad. No,
No,
wasn't the
before
one that
that,
started that, but it was yeah.
yeah, they made it the most popular. Like for the like it was cocaine. Like Scarface was the cocaine, what Breaking Bad was to meth. Like it was. That's what it did to it. Boosted.
150%. Yeah.
Because there were suburban housewives that didn't know what fucking cocaine was, right? Like goody two shoe, like nerdy, church going men who just didn't know what cocaine was. And then Scarface came out, and they were like, they knew what cocaine was at that point. Like they knew. Like everybody knew what fucking coke was after Scarface, 1983.
Yeah.
And 2009, Breaking Bad, everybody knew about meth after that, or what meth was, and all of the names and terms that encompass the world of methamphetamine. This is the thing. Like when we were kids, it wasn't popular up here, like speed and crank, right? Like in New York, not up by where we were, right? I'm down in Florida. I think crank and speed were popular back down here back then.
Crank and speed have always been popular.
I'm talking about up in New York City that cocaine was more popular, crack cocaine was more popular, like it was in Los Angeles. Cocaine was more popular, so crack cocaine became more popular. All the major cities was where crack, and I'm pretty sure crack was crazy down here too in the 80s. I don't know. I was not around. But, from what I understand, like meth has made its footprint in the South and in the rural areas, the South, and just like the expanse that is the West, where like nobody lives. Like that was the drug of choice out in those places. But yeah, man, crack, bro. Crack was. You know what? The thing is, like, crack really had a multi-effect to pop culture. It was sad, tragic, right? And it was the news cycle every day. It was crack epidemic, violence.
We probably said this in the show 100 times, but I love how if you do coke, you're like, whatever, everyone does coke. When you do crack, it's like, bro, you do crack, man. What's wrong with you?
Even though it's like
snort fucking cocaine off hookers every day, but me smoking crack is a big deal, and that's all hypothetical. You don't sniff cocaine off hookers, and I don't do crack, but I'm just saying.
I mean, I smoke. It's like this. What happens? Okay, this is like the cocaine guy is like I accidentally killed somebody with my car, and I like involved in human trafficking, and I do a copious amounts of cocaine. And like I'm no good. And then the crackhead is the guy who smokes a rock and then goes to work at White Castle, fucking making sliders and shit, so that you can fucking eat your crave case.
Well,
you know what I mean?
There was a story of a guy that worked in my industry, and I think he died, but he was notorious for going to work and being a horrible employee all morning until he got the first coffee break.
Yeah.
And during the first coffee break, he had a cup of coffee and smoked some crack. And for the rest of the day, he was the best employee they ever had.
The most productive. His downtime in the morning was mute. It made he put a day and a half after coffee break.
Yep.
He put a day and a half of work. Motherfucker, that's what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? Like, and then the opposite side of that crack was, of all that bad shit was the comedy and how funny it was. Everybody had a neighborhood crackhead. Everybody knew that knew it, and you spoke to them. This wasn't like the neighborhood heroin addict. Nobody talks to, right? The neighborhood crackhead is like, listen. If they could smoke one less rock a day, they could be the mayor of the fucking city.
I worked. Wow.
If they could smoke one less rock a day, they could be the mayor of the fucking city. Mayor of Toronto. Sorry, that was a.
So I used to work at a fast food restaurant. A restaurant's a loose term. It shouldn't be probably anyway. And one of the employees was a crackhead, and she worked at my fast food restaurant, the one also across the street, and the one next door, because she would do like part-time at all three.
God damn.
But
that's a day though.
She was good at her job. The only problem was all the teeth were rotting out of her mouth, and I couldn't understand a word she fucking said.
She couldn't
So-
get dental from one of those
No.
places.
So you never had her deal with customers. You always had her doing in the back doing prep, which I don't know if it's any better than dealing with customers. But like if you'd ask her a question, she'd be like, you know what, Mike, and then you have to go there, and then you have to go to the store, and I'm like, what did you just say?
Lightning.
All I said was take your break. It was simply take your break, okay, not whatever the hell you just fucking said.
Well, if you told her just go smoke your rock, she would have been like, okay, no problem. Pew. She would have, pew.
But
You would
what
have
you
seen
just
like
said
the.
was way more understandable than what she said. Like I don't think I understood a sentence she ever said. And I worked with her for like 2 years or a year and a half, and I don't think I've ever understood a word she said. Ironically, a mutual friend of ours understood every word she said. That mutual friend of ours also used to understand what's his name from King of the Hill.
Oh, the band, no, ding, dong, ding, dang, ding, dong.
Yeah, yeah.
That guy?
She understood him. My father did too, which is weird.
I never No, I didn't. I didn't. Yeah, I never caught that guy on King of the Hill. Like when they're, you mean like when they're all drinking beers, like every episode in front of the fence, right? Like every time they had the four of them.
The King of the Hill.
Yeah, he's the guy with the trucker hat, right? And he's like fucking with the sunglasses, and you don't understand a word he says. 'Cause I never did. And I've seen Boomhauer. Yeah, and I've definitely seen a whole shitload of episodes. I never caught one word. But this is the funny thing when I hear like Jamaicans speak when they or like when people speak patois, like I get a lot of it.
Yes, it's because I grew up in that area, so I understand a lot of it too. There was one guy I worked with him, and he spoke with a strong accent, Jamaican guy, and I was like, bro, I grew up around Jamaicans. I usually can understand them. I don't fucking understand a word you're saying, man. Like it was just too fast. Maybe he spoke too fast. Where I was like, I can't break it down to kind of comprehend what you're saying, man.
Speaking about Jamaicans and bringing it back to St. Patrick's Day, Jamaicans, a lot of the Jamaicans that I met in my life love Guinness. They fucking love Guinness.
My lovely vaporizer died, so I had to plug it in and charge it briefly.
No, well, what do you mean died? Like, oh no, it still works though.
Well, no, like the battery died. I had to charge it just now.
You should just buy a couple of Puffcos and just have them.
This is a Puffco.
No, I'm just saying, like, just have them when one craps out, you have another one to take its place.
That sounds expensive.
I mean, I do that with sneakers.
We have to talk about the drone that got shot down, but until then, we have one more thing.
Yes.
So the
dipshit of the week.
The dipshit of the week is not a person. It's a thing, and that thing is daylight savings time.
Fuck daylight savings time.
So every year I hear the government is like, we're going to stop this. It's stupid. We shouldn't do it anymore. It was originally for farmers. Let's stop doing it. And they talk about it and they put it into like, they have to vote on it for some fucking stupid reason. And then they vote on it and it passes and they just decide not to do it, which makes no fucking sense.
This is the problem because other countries like are also like on some sort of daylight savings time shit. A lot of countries don't do it. And it makes no difference.
Some states don't do it. So if not every state,
Arizona, right? Arizona doesn't do it.
Yeah, it's Arizona. I think it's only Arizona, right?
Right now, it's only Arizona. I don't think. I know the Dominican Republic doesn't do it. I know several Asian countries don't do it.
Arizona, Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, Northern Mariana Islands, Guam, and American Samoa all do not do it.
Yep. So this is the thing. I know like there was some sort of rationale until when they implemented this that it was supposed to be some sort of like way to mitigate like energy consumption and but the thing is it's doesn't do any of that, so stop it.
Yeah, it's stupid.
Yes, because listen, let me tell you something. Everybody who participates has a fucking problem with it. There's nobody who is celebrating it, even when it's like, oh, fall back, we get an extra hour. It's like, no, it's banked already earlier on in the year, and then you get it back. And then when you get it back, you think you're sleeping for an hour extra, but no, your body's already on a clock, and most people are waking themselves up at exactly the time that they would fucking wake up anyway. And so it's a fucking waste to even do that. Listen, I have this watch, okay? Let me just tell you about this watch, okay? I have watches. They're not particularly expensive, or some of them, like I treasure more than others. I have this one watch in particular. It's an $80 G-Shock that I got almost a decade ago, maybe more, right? This is the one in question. But I have several watches, and I have to change all of them. Some of them I won't wear for a year on purpose just so I don't have to daylight savings time it, okay? I'm telling you, and I'm like, I want to wear the watch. It looks nice, but I'm going to look like a fucking idiot when I'm an hour fucking behind wearing this goddamn watch. So I'm going to wait until Thanksgiving to wear it, even though it's a summer color, because fuck me, right? Anyway, so instead of having to fucking go and wind all of them, because it's a box of watches, all right, I may do one or two because I really, whatever. Mm-hmm. This particular G-Shock is some sort of solar fucking shit. It charges. There's no battery change whatsoever. It's a fucking, like a hand watch, and it lights up in the dark. It's crazy. I love it. It's a great survival watch, and it's my go-to watch. I wear it all the fucking time. But it is with the GPS. It's synced to the GPS. But the GPS doesn't play this daylight savings time shit, right? Even though the watch does, and when I put it set on auto for daylight savings time, it does not reset, and then I have to go manually and then set it to the GPS. And I do this every year. It's the only watch I fucking do it to.
Dude, these are white people problems.
I just want this to stop.
This is like first world problems, man.
Want this to stop. Please.
First world problems.
Please. Yo, I just want to keep my G-Shock at one time. But for real? For real?
What happened to the drone? What's going on?
All right, so... Well, what the United States looks like they did is took a fucking page out of the China playbook and flew a drone in the Black Sea, and I think it was shot down by the Russians, but apparently you said it was, I don't know if I read anything new or old, or maybe something that was too far ahead of itself. But the thing is, was it shot down or was it not shot down? I heard the propeller was damaged and it downed in the Black Sea. What happened?
Okay, let me see. So I thought two Russian Su-25 fighters intercepted the drone Tuesday, dumping fuel on it, flying in front of it, and demonstrating a lack of competence, according to a statement from the U.S. European Command. One of the fighters clipped the propeller of the drone, forcing U.S. operators to bring it down in international waters.
Oh, so whoops. Did they say it was a whoops?
Well, I mean, they were
Happy St. Patrick's Day. One for the road. Well, they said they dumped fuel on it and lit it on fire.
The Russian Defense Ministry said it was trying to identify the intruder when the drone's own abrupt maneuvering caused it to crash.
Because they claim it was in their airspace in the Black Sea?
Yes.
Okay, so, just saying. Listen, I'm just going to say this. When my boy's picking a fight, right, I'm going to try to hold him back. And then when it gets a little too out of hand and people start hitting him, because he steps over the line, right? After complaining that the last guy who did that to him was a piece of shit and he's doing the same thing, I'm still going to have to throw down with my homeboy and fight the guys who he's picking on, right? But that being said, we did just shoot down a couple fucking balloons, right?
Yep.
All right. And then a drone that was shot down over the Black Sea, which is a little close. A little fucking close, which is okay. You just say we're picking a fight with Russia. Just fucking say it. Like, you know what's better? What's better is just to be like, hey, we're not going to sneak a war on you. We are telling you we're going to war.
Yes.
So just be ready.
Listen, be ready. We are most likely going to war with Russia and probably China. And in the mix of that, it also means North Korea and Iran. So get your shit together. Stop being pussies. We're about to go to war. So all the people arguing over
I don't want to. This is not. I'm not going to do
I don't want to either. I'm not saying I'm not pro-war at all.
But the,
but I think they need to come clean and go, listen, stop arguing over who's a they, them, and whatever, and get ready to fucking kill people.
yeah, or survive, like,
Yes,
or
well,
whatever. Yeah.
Yes. If
This
it's to a nuclear war, get ready for like nuclear winter.
I mean, I hope that doesn't happen. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think that this is going to escalate even still. I just feel like this is still part of the dick measuring contest. I don't think this is the move that escalates things. There's not a Franz Ferdinand here. You know what I mean? So, like, but laugh at it, because the thing is, listen, we could be all the men that we want to be about a fucking. I mean, listen, if whack ass balloon is all you got, like, that's. I hope that's not all you got, because the thing is, like, a lot of people blame what do they call them? The new name for UFOs. What are they called again?
UFOs. Just say UFOs.
Like UFOs being China tech that's, like, zipping around and shit like that. And the thing is, like, oh well, maybe it's just
Or
like something.
They're saying it could be Israeli.
And maybe the balloon is just like something to make us go derp to derp, so that we look derp to derp when they actually have these things.
Derp to derp.
Yeah, and it could be something that's like testing the waters and/or
Pushing
sort of
limits,
antagonistic.
seeing how
Antagonistic.
Like, hey, what you gonna do? You don't know what this is floating. What are you gonna do? Oh, you're gonna shoot it down. We like that response time. It took you a really long time. So if we wanted to send some bombers in here, you guys might not really be able to get them in time.
Yeah, but and we could have gotten it way earlier. Like, listen, honestly, I think a lot of that stuff was let in just to like prove points or to like demonstrate something to whoever's paying attention. But it doesn't show anything to me. I'm not impressed by it. It doesn't show that they're that much of a threat. This thing that's happening with TikTok is a little bit more relevant than that, and TikTok is looking into leaving their parent company. Did you hear about this?
No.
TikTok is looking into leaving its parent company to stay in business in the United States. So TikTok may not be banned in the United States if they cut their ties with the CCCP.
But will they really be cutting their ties with the CCP?
CCCP?
It's CCP.
CCP.
The Chinese Communist Party.
Okay. All right. Yes. So.
I don't think listen. I hope they'll check more than just taking their word for it. Like, hey, yeah, we cut our ties.
That's another thing. Once they're plugged in, This isn't just like, okay, we're changing our passwords.
Yeah.
It's like, no, motherfucker. No. Like, I don't know what the market looks like in respect to like how much the American market is important to TikTok as opposed to worldwide. You know what I mean? Because let's just say if it's banned here, TikTok doesn't go out of business because they are still going to be widely used around the world. And you're going to get people who are going to have jailbroken versions of it, like torrent versions of TikTok in the States that are still posting. So why did that come out in the news today? Like, that's the question. Like, why is that news today? Like, why did they say that, oh, well, we'll leave our parent company and stay in business in the United States? What does that do? Like, what's the significance of that? Does it mean that anybody can be bought? Does it mean that the United States is more of a market share? Like, has more of a, not market share, more of a...
We are a country of consumers. So that's the thing with this whole situation with China is China doesn't really want to go to war with us. They want to make money off of us.
Yeah, I think the only person who really wants to go to war and who's actually proven that is Russia. Russia's the only one.
I don't think they want to go to war either. I don't think they want to go to war.
Not with us, but they want to go to war. I mean, just in general. Russia is the only one.
The thing is because they've been pushed a lot and
they had to flex. You have to have some desire to go to war to go to war.
Uh-huh.
If you don't have a desire to go to war, typically you won't go to war unless somebody just starts bombing you. You know what I mean? So
said that casually.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the United States doesn't want to go to war because if they did, we would be at war all the time, which we were. You know what I mean? And we're not right now.
No, we
Technically,
still
we
We're
are.
we're not in a real war, but
We're not as spread out as we had been in the past. Like you had Vietnam, right? And then there was a lull, and then we went back to the Middle East and left, and then came back again and stayed for a minute. You know what I mean? And then stayed in Afghanistan at the same time. You know what I mean? And then even before Vietnam, it was like we were in Korea 10 years before that. And then 5 years before that, we were in Japan and Europe, and so on and so forth. And then even before that, there was 20 years, like a span where we weren't at war because we didn't want to be at war, but because we couldn't afford to be at war. We were suffering through a depression. We were actually inflating so much in the 1920s, partying hard, that a bubble burst, and then we couldn't afford to do shit for a decade. And then we went to war. So between World War I and World War II, there was 2 decades where there was like everybody was on blow and fucking, and then nobody was on anything and fucking starving. You know what I mean? In the 1930s in the United States and around the world when the markets collapsed in 1929. And so we go in and out. Right now, I don't know how long this out's going to be because we just got out of Afghanistan. So technically, we've only been out of a war for 2 years, right? Like,
basically.
Yeah. But we're still in it other places. Yemen, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Yep. Forever. We'll forever be at war.
Somewhere. But Bosnia, we were at war in Bosnia in the 90s, but you don't count that. Do you even really count the Gulf War, the first Gulf War? Do you count that?
You definitely do.
Yeah, because it's a precursor, yes, to what happened later. But we were fucking giving the Mujahideen fucking guns in the 80s. You don't count that. You don't count, I tell you what, you don't count 75 to 90 to 91 to the Gulf War. You don't count that. Because there's nothing really going on then. From 63 to 75, you count that because Vietnam, we were at war in other places in the world too. We were giving South American fucking military groups fucking funding and weapons. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we do. We
now
fund secret wars around the world.
So now we're funding a war in Ukraine because we're giving Ukraine fucking, bang bangs. And we're trying to tell Americans that they can't buy bang bangs. And it's like, well, what up with that, dude?
You know what?
You want to give them guns to fight back, but it's like...
Yeah, that's the thing. It's kind of ironic, right? It's like, hey, we need to support these guys and give them guns because guns are what's going to help them. But you guys, guns aren't going to help you guys. Just trust us and we'll help you without the guns.
Yeah.
But when you call the cops, it takes, it's 11 minutes, 12 minutes, maybe longer to get to you. So while I'm waiting for the police, I will be dying because I don't have a gun.
Yeah. And listen, I'm not saying like I'm one of those people who would ever think anybody would ever invade. Okay, invasion of your home is one thing. Invasion of your safety and personal space.
No one will ever invade. Tell that to anyone who was around on January 6th.
Dude, I've said this too. It could be, like a banding of people, or it could be it could easily listen, it is unlikely. However, it is still possible for certain incursions to happen in certain ways in several places around the world, in several different countries, of varying levels of security, right? We had proven, in 2001 that you could fly a plane into a building, right? So, and you have people, in the street, whether it's a citizen of this country who commits a crime against you, or if it's a banding of people who are looking to harm our liberties and freedom and our lives, you know what I mean, for whatever reason. Or it could be some Red Dawn shit, you know what I mean? But, which is, however, unlikely, like I was stating earlier. But if that does happen, do you not want, the people of Ukraine, I think, were armed, right? That's how they were able to...
Were armed. They already had supplies. They already were mentally at war for years. Like I told you, when our mutual friend went there to visit, they all were still at war with Russia in their heads.
In their heads, yeah. It was still in the...
There hasn't been shots fired since 2013 when there was
Crimea, 14, yeah, Crimea.
But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, listen, but I don't think I like that this drone is going to be as big of a deal as it is when it hits the headlines, or when it hit the headlines today. I don't think it's going to escalate too soon. I feel that we've proven that it won't because of what happened with China and the balloons. That it's going to be a lot of rabble, and then to your corners. You know what I mean? And then another thing, but this is still part of the possible culmination of lava underneath the caldera before the top blows. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I don't want to go to war, but the thing is, what the fuck, and then now it's like, how do you, now we're looking at the next couple of election cycles, and it's like, who's going to have to deal with this? Because that's really when whoever's president in 2 years is going to have to deal with what we're talking about right now, whatever the China, Russia, United States fucking web is,
yes, and we have to be careful
or not
who we vote in.
Yeah.
And because you vote, it's if we're at war, or we're about to be at war, or we're dealing with the repercussions of all this shit that's going on now, we need someone. We don't need a vote based on stupid shit like who's left, who's right. We need a vote based on who's going to get us out of the situation we're in.
Who's gonna lead us out, like a leader, like a real leader. This is the fucked up part, right? If this is not a testament to how this is all gonna look in another year, okay? Mark my words, in 2024, it's gonna be a shit show, right? It's gonna be a shit show after January. It's gonna be a shit show after January. And now this is, nothing's a testament to it, this is a testament to it. Donald Trump and Ron DeSantis are frenemies now. And when I mean frenemies, I mean more enemies than friends. You understand what I mean? Mm-hmm. They are not liking each other right now. And I don't think the Democratic Party is going to have any sort of better unity than the Republican Party is going to have. Mark my words. This turmoil that's happening with the fucking elephants are going to happen with the fucking donkeys. Mm-hmm. Trust me when I tell you. It will happen that way. And it already sort of is, because you have now on the left a separation of the far left radicals and the people who are more moderate lefts, who are market driven, who have money invested, who are, of the upper echelon of the one percenters, the rich liberals who, are seeing what the cause and effect are with a lot of this activism and how it's affecting just pop culture, just culture in general, for good and bad. Let me just state that too. But some of the bad, like you can have people, politicians who want to sort of separate themselves from, let's just say, Antifa rioters, right? Like how you're going to have Republicans who are more Reagan-Bush Republicans who are backing DeSantis, who are going to want to separate themselves from the ultra-nationalists who are backing Trump. You know what I mean? You're going to have this separation to where now there's going to be a duality in parties. And the only rational motherfuckers are going to be guys like me and you, and women like me and you, and fucking thems like me and you, people who are like a little bit more centered on their views and really, or just don't give a shit that much about politics. You know what I mean? Because you get people who are centrists and people who don't follow politics at all, who actually have more in common than people who identify as being super lefty or super righty or moderate left and moderate right even.
It's true though.
So we'll see what the fuck happens in another year.
Yep. It's hopefully we can do an election special.
That's a good idea. I like that.
But thanks for watching the Dumbfounded Dipshits podcast. Check us live every Wednesday at 9. Don't Like, subscribe.
Subscribe. Hit that button.
I didn't
Hit that
check.
button.
I didn't realize we on our main page at Dumbfounded Dipshits on YouTube. We do have a few new subscribers. Pay attention. But anyway, watch us Wednesday nights, 9 o'clock, 9:15 actually. Yeah, like, subscribe, and you can always comment anytime. Give us ideas.
Yeah, shoot us a line. Like if you know something's coming up, like let me just say this: if you know something's coming up, like St. Patrick's Day, for example, shoot us a line a week before and say some ridiculous shit. We will respond to ridiculous shit. Offensive, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
we'll talk about dirty, hairy assholes. Like we'll talk about whatever.
Subscribers, thank you very much. 12.
That's a good number. I like 12. It doesn't.
Natural growth. I don't promote this show at all. It's adult only, so we don't get promoted at all. So this is just
let the word spread. Hey man, to the next 12 that are watching this, kudos to you. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Slantia.